Her son threw her out of the house after she lost her job, but he never knew she hid a secret treasure. Maria stepped outside and gently closed the wooden door behind her. Her fingers shook as they tightened around the well-worn handle of her suitcase. It wasn't the chill in the air that made her tremble. No, it was the weight of a mother's sorrow, the kind that comes when the ones you love let you down. There stood Killian, her own son, in the doorway with his arms folded tight. Behind him, his wife Tanisha lurked with that satisfied look, like she'd just played her trump card. The house Maria once filled with love now felt as chilly as a winter morning. Even with the afternoon sun shining bright, they'd gone and closed all the shutters like they were hiding from the light. Just minutes before, Killian's voice had cut through the silence. "You should have spoken up, Ma. You lost your job, now eating our food, sitting around all day. What exactly are you doing?" Maria's tired eyes met his. "I needed to rest, son. I'm not feeling right. Didn't want to trouble you." But Tanisha couldn't stay quiet. "Not feeling right, or just not working?" she snapped. "Open your eyes, Killian. We're barely keeping our heads above water. We can't be dragging your mother along too. It's not right." Killian didn't stand up for her. Not a word in defense of the mother who'd raised him single-handedly after his father passed, who scrubbed motel floors and went hungry to put books in his hands. All he said was, "You'll have to manage on your own now. We've got our own family to think about." Just like that. No embrace, no grateful words for all her years of sacrifice. Only the lonely scrape of suitcase wheels on broken sidewalk as Maria walked away, her heart heavier than the bag she carried. She kept her tears inside, not when she left, not even when she finally sank onto that familiar bus bench 3 blocks away. At 70 years young, her body ached from more than just the long walk. Some pains go deeper than tired bones. But Maria carried a secret, one she'd kept close for 34 years. A secret that would change everything. What Killian never bothered to ask, and what Maria never told him, was that she hadn't lost her job at all. That old back of hers, worn out from years of hard work, had finally said enough. The doctor put his foot down. "No more lifting, Maria." Living on dollar was nothing new to Maria. She'd tightened her belt more times than she could count over the years. But who could have guessed that leaving one small job would mean losing everything else too? The bench creaked as she shifted, watching the cars drive by. Her thoughts drifted to that little house, her house, where Killian lived now. Every brick paid for with her sweat, every room filled with memories. She'd signed it over when he'd promised, "I'll always take care of you, Ma." Always hadn't lasted long. But here's the miracle. Maria's heart stayed soft. No anger took root in that good, kind soul of hers, because Maria had a secret, a quiet little blessing she'd kept tucked away all these years. Let me tell you about it. Back when her dear husband passed in that worksite accident 34 years ago, the insurance money barely covered expenses. But in that stack of papers was something special, a deed to some forgotten land out in the country, left to them by her husband's uncle. Now this wasn't any fancy property. No running water, no proper road, just wild land that everyone said wasn't worth keeping. "Sell it, Maria," they told her. But that wise woman just smiled and shook her head. Year after year, even when times got tough, Maria always found a way to pay those property taxes. She'd go without new shoes or skip a meal if she had to, but she held on to that land. Why? Because Maria believed in being prepared. "You never know what tomorrow might bring," she'd say to herself. Then last autumn, her patience was rewarded. A nicely dressed young man came knocking. Seemed some big company wanted her land for a solar energy project. When he told her the price they were offering, Maria had to sit right down. Maria made them promise to keep it quiet. That money went straight into a trust at the church foundation, in her late husband's name. Only Maria could touch a penny of it. To the outside world, even to her own family, she remained the same Mama Maria they'd always known. Her worn apron tied around her waist, her old purse looking empty. But what nobody knew was that same tired purse now held quite the surprise. As she walked away from Killian's house that morning, her purse held a shiny new checkbook and a bank card worth $1.5 million to be exact. She chose to spend her first night at a women's shelter. But Maria had her reasons. She wanted to be with people who knew what it felt like to be cast aside. So she sat with them, passing around sandwiches like she always did. She lent a kind ear to their stories. And when the room felt too heavy with sadness, she offered smiles as warm as sunshine. The very next morning, Maria put on her walking shoes and went to see a little place she'd had her eye on. It was a shabby old cottage on the town's edge, its walls cracked, its roof leaking, and weeds spreading wild across the path. When the realtor named the price, Maria simply nodded and paid right then and there. A signed check, no fuss. In just 3 short weeks, something wonderful happened. Workers came quietly, fixing and polishing until that sad little cottage shined again. The papers called it Haven Holdings LLC, fancy words that meant no one needed to know it was Maria's new home. As she unpacked her few belongings, Maria felt a deep peace settle in her bones. Some folks might have wanted payback after being treated poorly, but not our Maria. Her heart was set on something far more important, creating a place where no one would ever feel tossed aside or forgotten. While Maria's new beginning took root, Killian's world crumbled like dry bread. Killian's life took some turns, though not the kind he'd imagined. That fine house he'd been so proud of, the one his mother worked her fingers to the bone to pay off? The bank came knocking for it. He scrambled from one job to another, delivery gigs, night shifts at the warehouse, even some of those get-rich-quick schemes folks try online. But between mounting bills, a marriage falling apart at the seams, and some choices he'd like to take back, everything seemed to slip away like sand through his fingers. In the end, Tanisha packed up their 2 boys and left. And the empty house. The kind of quiet where you can hear the clock ticking. That cold winter found Killian perched on the edge of a borrowed cot in his friend's basement. He turned over a flyer he'd picked up at the library that morning, the kind with fancy printing you could feel under your fingertips. Right at the top, in letters as welcoming, it read, Maria's Table, a place for good food and helping hands. Killian's breath caught. Maria? Surely not his mom, yet his heart gave a little jump, part shame, part wonder, and just the smallest spark of hope. The next morning, Killian pulled on his coat and walked clear across town. When he finally spotted the building, it welcomed him like an old friend. Stepping inside was like coming home. The rich smell of homemade bread and simmering soup wrapped him. Kind-faced volunteers moved about, tending to folks with gentle hands. Then he saw her. There behind the desk sat Maria, wrapped in that soft beige cardigan he remembered. She'd gotten older, yes, but in the way good wine ages. There was a quiet strength about her now, and something more precious than gold shining in her eyes. Peace. Real peace. Mama, his voice cracked like a boy's. Her head lifted, for just a heartbeat. Then she rose smooth as sunrise and came round to him, those mother's eyes seeing right down to his soul. Killian's chin dropped to his chest. The words spilled out. Lost the house. Tanisha took the boys. Got nowhere left, Mama. Maria let the quiet settle between them like dust in a sunbeam. Then, soft as a knitted blanket, come in, son. At the little table, Killian's eyes kept wandering around the cozy room. All this, it's yours? She gave a simple nod. But when you left, I thought, his voice trailed off, I had peace, she said, and enough to share. His hands shook around the warm mug she'd given him. Why didn't you tell me about the money? Her wise eyes held his. Would this have changed your heart? The truth sat heavy between them. I treated you shameful, he whispered. Maria reached across and took his work-rough hands in hers. We all lose our way sometimes. What matters is finding the path back. Tears rolled down his cheeks then, the kind that cleanse the soul. And Maria, sweet Maria, offered the gift only mothers can give, unearned grace. Following that spring, Killian began showing up at Maria's table every day, rolling up his sleeves to help however he could. He mended wobbly chairs, stirred big pots of soup, and before long took charge of organizing supplies. But the real healing wasn't in the work. It was in the quiet moments with his mother. Every Friday evening, they'd settle together on the porch. Side by side, they'd watch the neighborhood children chase fireflies, their laughter floating on the warm air. Then one night, Maria reached into her apron pocket and handed Killian a faded envelope. Inside, he found 2 treasures, the old deed to the home she'd given him years ago and the framed check from her land sale. This isn't about debts, she said, patting his hand. It's to remind you. When we choose love over pride, miracles can grow from heartache. Killian's eyes welled up as he really looked at her, not just as his mother, but as the remarkable woman she was. A woman who'd taken the ashes of her sorrow and built something beautiful enough to shelter them all. When Maria's time came, she slipped away as gently as she'd lived, quietly in her sleep. The church overflowed with folks from every walk of life. Hungry children she'd fed, struggling families she'd sheltered, neighbors she'd lifted. A crowd full of grateful hearts swapping stories about the woman who'd given so much with so little. And Killian? There he stood at the front, his mother's well-worn apron cradled in his hands like a treasure. His voice, thick with emotion, carried through the hushed room. My mama walked away from our home years ago with nothing but a suitcase and her dignity. But in that empty-handed moment, she planted seeds of kindness that grew beyond anything we imagined. Behind him, the wooden sign above Maria's table, the words she'd chosen when this place first opened its doors, the doors that slam shut behind you matter less than the ones you hold open for others. The boy who'd once turned his mother away had grown into the man she'd always seen in him, all because when Maria had every reason to harden her heart, and so with hands that had once turned her away, Killian now held the door open for others, just as his mother taught him. Kindness, forgiveness, and generosity can turn even the deepest wounds into blessings for us and those around us. Have you ever had to forgive someone who hurt you deeply? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel for more amazing mother tales. Also, tell us where you are watching from. Until then, stay kind, stay blessed.